over, you heard about the Calf Crew.
Yes.
Right? How did you hear about us?
So when we found out that we were going to be buying, this house, which was kind of unexpected for us, we knew we were in a time crunch. I had never done a mortgage, and I didn't have anybody to really give me advice or help me. So the very first place I went was like online and did probably the worst thing you could do, which is fill out. What was the site that I went to? Oh my gosh, what is it?
You mean like Zillow or something, and then they like...
Yeah, but it was like an actual one.
Gotcha.
Rocket Money. I went to Rocket Money and just filled out the initial thing, thinking that it would be kind of like filling out an insurance quote and I'd get back multiple quotes. What I didn't realize is I'd be getting multiple calls. So the next day I started getting, quite a few calls and realizing that I'm going to need some help here. So in my head, I decided, like banking and things like that, I would go local. I want to be able to go in and meet the person and have the person, be there to help me in real time. And I just kind of started doing some research. We live here in New Braunfels, and I was like, local mortgage companies, looking for those reviews. I went on, found y'all. Y'all have amazing reviews. Started to read the reviews and really kind of felt like, yeah, I think that, maybe this is a contender. And so, yeah, that's how I found y'all.
Awesome. Okay. And so I'm curious because we always hear like, okay, yes, I saw your reviews, but I also went like on your socials. Like, did you ever do that?
I'm not a huge social person, but once I made the initial contact and was like, I always do the Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And so after the initial conversation, which I already felt so good after the first initial conversation, but yes, then I started to kind of peer into the socials and make sure that everything was legit.
Okay, cool. So let's go through kind of what you had seen with all the other lenders you were talking to, right? And then as soon as you spoke with us and like that process, what were the major like differences that made you feel like, okay, I think I'm talking to someone who is actually going to care about my loan and like genuinely wants to close this deal for my family.
Yeah. So the big thing for me was like those initial conversations I had with other lenders, they were very pushy. I felt really kind of talked down to, and the questions they were asking me, it's like they weren't answering the questions that I was asking. They were just wanting the information, basically to get me tied down. And I kept explaining to them like, nope, I'm not, I just want some answers. Like I'm just starting the process, but they were being very pushy about, no, like, let's get the process started. Give me all your personal information. And so that was really hard for me because I knew that credit check was like a huge thing. If I was going to go through this process, I didn't want like my credit check pinged. And I think that was one of the hardest things for me was like, how do you go through this process without having 20 people who are trying to compete for you start pinging your credit? And so once I called early in the morning and Matt took my call, he answered my questions so flawlessly. He didn't even ask me any questions. And I think the one thing that just like really stood out for me is he told me like, you can keep, in fact, I even advised that if you already have something going with another person, keep that process going so that you have something to compare to whatever we offer you. And that just really spoke to me. I didn't feel like he was pushing me into anything. I didn't feel like the information he was giving me was just information to try to sell me. So
awesome. Okay. And so the process, once we got your contract, went through underwriting, processing, like the team, what did that feel like, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh my God, buying a house is a nightmare.
And and because of my initial experience, like with the mortgage companies and stuff, like I was like, this isn't going to be any fun. And I can just tell that I'm really signing up for something that's going to be very complicated. Once I was like, let's go, I made my decision with y'all and we pulled the trigger. It was so smooth and fast. Like y'all made everything that he promised me on the day one happen. And I'm a skeptic, and from the get-go, every step of the way, I was like, it's coming. Like, I know that me and you had a few laughs about that because I'm like, you'd call me, you're like, don't panic, because you could tell, and you knew me. That was like, you could tell that's what I was thinking. Yeah. But everything was so smooth. Like, y'all, and any time I needed y'all, even for the smallest question, even for questions that maybe my real estate agent should have been answering, y'all were so helpful in that. So yeah, like I just really loved how seamlessly and smoothly everything went.
Very cool.
I still feel like it's a dream, you know?
Yeah. And I'm trying to think because I don't remember, but start to finish, because I feel like it was
Quick.
quick, right?
Definitely, I think it was about 3 weeks.
Okay, I was gonna say 21 days.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, and in our industry, we hear a lot of stories about like, oh, well, isn't the standard like 35, 45 days? And so to have like a smooth process within 21 days, really your dream house, right?
Yep.
Like, what in the world? Like, we're
Yeah.
so stoked to be a part of your story.
Thank you.
And we love doing these interviews just because it's like, this is real, right? This is one of the biggest purchases most families will ever have, right? And I feel for you when you talk about how you were treated before, just because our industry is very just like, it's just, you're just a number, right?
Yep.
And so we do our best to make it not feel that way, right? And so we're just honored to be a part of your story, and thank you so much for trusting us.
You're welcome. And another thing too is like, even like he had told me to keep the one going because I'd already started the process. And it's like, I was like, well, they're saying this. And he's like, it's not going to happen. You haven't run into the problems yet. So it was really hard because then it was like, oh my gosh.
Am I missing something?
Yeah, like what? And I'd call
Yeah.
y'all and I'm like, what am I? And he's like, no, this one's going to be smooth. Like there should be no reason. And the sad thing is, looking back on it, I almost wonder if they were just trying to lock me into a really, because what he did come back with an offer.
Right.
And y'all's blew him out of the water.
Yeah.
Everything y'all everything y'all said would happen, he told me was impossible. So it's really scary and sad because I know there's other people out there like me who don't know what they're doing. It's their first time buying a house. And if they were to just listen to that first person that they have contact with, they could end up in a really bad deal.
Absolutely. Maybe feel like they don't have another option,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. And
Thanks
thank
for
y'all
joining
so
me.
much. Like, this was life-changing for us. And, you know, we really feel like believe in like the meant to be and people like that. So we're really glad we met y'all.
Yes,
So.
ma'am.